Thinking is just a fascinating thing.
Yeah, I can see your face light up right
I
now.
get excited when I think of it. So in marketing, because we are in the creative space, because often we work with multiple variables. You know, when we look at a consumer, okay, I'm in financial services. When I think of our clients, I can't just think about their life in relation to financial services products. I don't know too many people who wake up thinking that, yeah, today I'm thinking about my check account. It just doesn't happen that way.
Here we go.
Hello, guys. Welcome to season 2 of the CMO Corner. It's that time, man. I'm so excited about what we're doing now on YouTube. And I've got my first guinea pig on the CMO Corner on YouTube. I'm glad he agreed. Very special guest. And I'm sure I say that a lot about all my guests. You would have picked it up in season 1. But again, the learnings that come from all my guests, I think, are quite valuable. So I'll tell you about my guest. First things first, I know that he's a bad golfer, right? It's not in the bio, guys. It's not in the bio. He's a bad golfer. He's admitted to it. And apparently he takes dad selfies. But over and above that, he's a very smart man, I think, in his career and what he has done. And if I go to his professional bio, I'll just pick glimpses of it. Born and raised in Soweto. My guest is enthusiastic, collaborative, optimist, and assertive marketing and business leader. He's spent his time working for big corporations, the likes of Hollard, the likes of Vodacom, and currently he's at Standard Bank. Yes, one of the biggest banks, and we'll touch on that very quickly. Over and above that, he studied his Bachelor of Science in Business Administration, majoring in accounting, and graduated in 1992. So we've got someone who loves his numbers, and I'm hurt about how accountants that don't pass accounting, but this one passed, end up in marketing. So my good sir, Thulani Sibeko, welcome.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to our chat.
Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. So today we'll touch on a couple of things, right? We'll touch on your marketing journey. We'll touch on the role currently that you have. I think we'll double click a lot on leadership because you speak a lot about that. And then we'll talk about how marketers and leaders can be better in the boardroom. But how I normally start the show. And I think it worked for season 1. So we'll do it again for season 2. Is I start with an icebreaker. Right?
Okay.
Don't worry, it's nothing incriminating. It's okay. We just have fun. And that's why I said don't prep for this. I just want to pick your brain. What inspires you?
I guess for me, the biggest inspiration comes from possibilities and potential. Throughout, from childhood, in things that I've done, I've always had this strong orientation. You look at something not just as it is, but in terms of what it can be, and the potential, and just seeing the transformation of things from what is less visible and what becomes visible subsequently. So potential and possibilities really give me lots of energy.
I love that. Your biggest regret or career regret, if you have any?
I guess in terms of career regrets, I'll keep the company nameless. I chose an organization because of the industry, but I decided to leave the organization because of the culture.
Got you.
So the regret is more in what was less visible to me about the culture from outside. So it was a bit of this could have been avoided.
Moment.
Yes.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
And then your biggest career achievement. What are you genuinely proud of?
Wow, that's a difficult one because one has been blessed with amazing opportunities and achievements. In the earlier part of my career, I guess 2 things stand out. in South Africa when I was the head of Oral-B, when we briefly overtook Colgate as the market leader in toothbrushes. That was something special. And then when I worked in London, responsible for Central Europe, East, Middle East, and Africa, including India, for Oral-B, when we more than doubled the business in 3 years.
Wow.
That was an amazing and special thing to be a part of.
Beautiful.
And then in the latter part of my career, I've just been blessed to work with amazing people, smart people, and to have the privilege of leading, challenging, and inspiring them for them to do amazing things. It's always been something I don't take for granted, and it's always been special.
Wow. Okay, I love that. Okay, icebreaker done. Now I know the type of guy I'm speaking to. So in the beginning of your career, you started off as an accountant. Yes, I said it, guys. Most marketers start off in accounting, and then they shift to marketing. What do you think was that switch for you where you're like, actually, I want to go into marketing and probably this is how I'm going to add value? Because you'd argue that if you're a chartered accountant, everyone thinks commercial expertise, you understand that better, and as a result, you can climb the corporate ladder. And people say, marketing are the pictures people or the creative people.
Yeah.
But what made you make that decision to go into marketing?
It's quite interesting because the decision was more circumstantial.
You see, there we go.
More than anything else. I graduated with an accounting degree, came back into the country, applied for what they call articles.
Yes.
And they were full for that year. They said, we like you. Can you defer for another year? I was like, I just can't. I can't afford not to be working. I need to start contributing at home and starting my own career. And a simple question for me was that if I look back at university over the 4 years that I studied, what was the second thing that I enjoyed most after accounting? And I remember that in the summer of that year, I had a communication project which was based on the launch of Gillette sensor for women in the US. And I just loved the marketing context of that project. And I had amazing professors. I had 2 marketing classes with Dr. Brown. I loved the experience of those courses. I was like, okay, I've always wanted to be an accountant ever since I started high school, ever since I went to college. And it looks like it's not going to happen. So what next? I said, marketing.
Yes.
And at that very moment, I applied and got accepted at Unilever and Gillette. And I chose Gillette. And in 1993, I started my marketing journey. And to your other point, I think the foundations that I got from the accounting studies was priceless.
Yes.
Because the commercial basis that I needed to do my marketing beyond the pretty picture, so to speak, was amazing. Because at Gillette, as you start as a marketing assistant, you start at that very early age to have a P&L responsibility. So that foundation of accounting has stood me in good stead throughout my career.
And I think that's one of the things that are downplayed, right? That understanding of the P&L as a marketer and understanding your numbers and your data and being close to that. So I'm glad that you're highlighting at least how your accounting actually helped you there. So I'm not too mad about that right now.
Okay.
So in your journey then, and as I was going through your CV, you moved to regional business director at P&G in less than 10 years, give or take. You can correct me if I'm wrong, because maybe my stalking tendencies were not right. For me, it seemed like a fast track journey to being that person, because it was Gillette, P&G, but that for me was sped up. What do you think you had in you, or what do you do, practical things that probably other people can take with them to say, actually, this is what took me to becoming someone senior at a very short space of time?
Yes, that's an important question, and the facts are indeed correct. And at a high level, I would say I was blessed and also I was growth oriented. I'm saying blessed because there were factors that I did not drive, but they helped my acceleration. And then in the growth orientation, there were indeed things that I was responsible for. I started working in 1993, and it was in 1999 that I became a regional business director responsible for Oral-B at Braun. And when I look at a combination of factors that contributed to that, firstly, we talked about the accounting degree. What one studies significantly shapes and influences the kind of opportunities and how they relate to those opportunities. I think it was a factor. Secondly, I think I had a very good and rich experience mix. By that I mean, when I started as a marketing assistant, worked for 6 months. Another 6 months, I became a sales rep, carrying the bag, calling on checkers, pick and pay, understood what was happening in the store with the merchandisers and so forth. After that 6 months, I got to work in the US at a corporate head office for 18 months. And subsequent to that, had other experiences. So in a relatively short time, spent 4 years in Gillette, went out to Polaroid for 2 years, worked on starting a brand that had been absent during the apartheid times and relaunching that brand, a unique experience. And then I got invited back to Gillette, which was part of what I call a blessing. It's not my making, getting a call, be invited back. And I chose to accept a role where the brand was, one, smallest in the portfolio, and then two, it was a challenger brand, which comes with different dynamics. That's why I'm referencing a rich experience. I have not only worked on market-leading brands, so that contributed. And I must also add that I was mature at an early age. So I think those who took a bet on me had reason to think that, hey, this one, maybe he won't, mess things up big time. And lastly, I would say, for me, learning from the beginning has always been in my DNA. So when one is confronted with opportunity, one always learns. And without a doubt, my work ethic, in Zulu they say, "Angusabu umsebenzi."
Yes.
So I just don't have a problem with working hard.
Yes. I love that. And maybe I want you to double click a bit on taking in a portfolio which is smaller, because I can relate to what you're saying. In FMCG, there's the big portfolio that just pays everyone's salaries and we focus on margins, and then there's others that are just very tiny.
Yes.
And the sales team don't care about them. How do you rally the whole team cross-functionally? Because I think there's a leadership trait in that, where you have to rally the troops and say, I know I'm the smallest in the business, I'm not the biggest, but if we can actually work together, this is what we can get.
You speak like somebody who can relate to the world that I experienced. In our organization, Oral-B was much smaller than Gillette. As you say, Gillette making the money and many other drivers. The value of working on a small portfolio, it expands your thinking because you have to be resourceful.
Yes.
You have to think about, how do I get the attention of the sales force? Two, the value of being in a small portfolio, it's great for building effective relationships. When you work for a big portfolio, you don't even have to relate well with people.
Yes.
Your brand, your portfolio speaks for you before.
Yes.
In my case, you have to do those things. And then the third and final thing, what I found, especially in relation to working with the sales teams, you had to master making things easy for them. So that when they think about, okay, he's small, but it's not a friction, category.
Yes.
Yes. And then, of course, one of the key things that I observed during those days, which I still apply to this day, whenever I was partnering with the people in the organization, it was always important for them to sense that I understand their pain in the trade when a buyer is pushing for co-op funds of special stock for doing certain things, the agility to be responsive to those things. So being small, things don't happen automatically. There's some heavy lifting you have to do. There's some resourcefulness that you have to do, and all of those things present learning opportunities, and they grow muscles that you wouldn't otherwise have if you are the biggest and everybody stops and.
And it actually nicely ties back to your point that like you're not afraid to work.
Indeed.
So that small portfolio allows you to learn and carry the heavy weight of the sales team and probably the whole business.
Yes.
I admire that about you. So
Cool.
you talk a lot about change, growth, learning, thinking, and leadership. Why are these things important to you?
Somebody has done some research, clearly. Yes. So that is very true. Even if you look at my LinkedIn engagements, those are the topics I tend to gravitate towards.
Yes.
Actually, there are 3. The others are subtopics.
Sure.
Growth is one. And as a subset of growth, I think change and learning are key pillars or ingredients of growth. And then the other is thinking. And then the last one is leadership. Starting with thinking, I truly believe that a lot of things are created twice. They start in the mind before they become into existence. And I truly believe also that the extent to which we create, we build, we decide, we problem solve is a huge function of how we think.
Gotcha.
So thinking is such a powerful thing, and yet not too many people focus on building thinking. We are happy to answer questions, we are happy to solve problems, but we don't step back and say, what is this capability that allows us to do all these other things? So with that realization, I just have this keen interest in thinking and developing thinking. So that's the reason. In terms of growth, only in retrospect, I realized that actually a big part of my DNA is growth. So, and as a function of growth, that's where change comes in. It's very difficult to grow while remaining the same.
100%.
Often growth is associated with change, so that's why the interest in change. And then learning is another thing that for me has always been a part of my journey. I just have this open mind, I just have this curiosity, and I believe that with the rate of change, all around us, learning, you just cannot opt out of it. To a point where I even think that when you stop learning, you are effectively regressing.
Yes.
So it is in that context. And then the last one, I guess, it's a function of my journey where I have landed, where one is in many contexts a leader, and just being aware of the long shadow and the broad impact that one has, and just, taking stock to say, if we end up with such an awesome responsibility and a privilege, how then do we ensure that we do it to the best of our ability? And that's why I became interested in the leadership topic.
I love that. And I want to double tap again on the thinking bit, because you spoke about how we can flex that muscle and build that muscle. Do you have any practical examples of how we can do that? Because you're right, like strategy at work is about thinking. The way you see campaigns, like it can be How about now? All of that from Standard Bank comes from a thinking process, a war room of some sort, or strategy development.
Yeah.
How do we better that as marketers, or just generally in different roles?
Yes. I think one of the ways is just being aware of the thinking process and what it entails. I'll give a simple example. Often when we make decisions, without articulating it, we use certain assumptions as a default. When you are a conscious thinker, you pause and say, what am I assuming to be true? And when you are conscious of what you assume to be true, you also give yourself license to say, actually, this is not true. Okay, so my assumption was wrong. You take that off.
Yeah.
Okay. In the same way, when you make decisions, being conscious of the assumptions you make, when it comes to implementing and there's a variance between what you expected and the outcomes, you are able to say, is this a function of bad execution, or is it a function of a change in the environment relative to what you assumed at the time? So just being aware of the thinking process, its blind spots, its traps. Also being aware on how you can sharpen and grow your thinking. A lot of people don't even pause to realize that we can become better thinkers.
Yes.
But it's something that starts with firstly accepting that very notion and then understanding what you can do about it, which ties back to that learning. Thinking is just a fascinating thing.
Yeah, I can see your face light up right now.
I get excited when I think of it. So in marketing, because we are in the creative space, because often we work with multiple variables. You know, when we look at a consumer, okay, I'm in financial services. When I think of our clients, I can't just think about their life in relation to financial services products. I don't know too many people who wake up thinking that, yeah, today I'm thinking about my check account. It just doesn't happen that way.
That's true.
You know, or my bank loan. People think about life and how financial services come into life. So thinking just expands the horizons and the lenses through which we approach things, the way we view things, and therefore, even when it comes to problem solving, those who are better thinkers have stronger muscles to reach better solutions, I would say.
Got you. And for me, then I wanna kind of segue to a different discussion now. We've spoken a lot about thinking, leadership, etc., and your previous role in the beginning of your journey. I wanna fast forward a bit to where you currently are as a Chief Brand and Marketing Officer for Standard Bank. And again, because I'm cheap labor, I do my research very well. I pay myself for doing the research. I found an interesting thing about Standard Bank being listed as Africa's most valuable bank. The continent is big. It's got 55 countries, if I'm not mistaken. And you manage 20 countries. How do you navigate all of this, and how do you make sure that the bank actually either stays there, because if I'm not mistaken, it's 3 consecutive years where you've held that spot of being the most valuable bank in the continent. How do you do that?
Firstly, what you're referring to are the results from brand finance that were recently released. We have regained the number 1 position as the most valuable banking brand in the continent. And I must hasten to say that while it's brand finance, what the brand value measures is a combination of marketing factors and also commercial and business factors.
Got you.
Indeed, the brand is present in 20 countries, and part of what we do is that I lead brand and marketing in South Africa, and I also lead brand and marketing for the group. In my responsibility, I have a combination of ensuring that with my exceptional team of centers of expertise and segment marketing heads, we formulate strategies that can travel into different geographies, and yet at the same time, we are mindful and respectful that, as you and I can appreciate, that there are local differences and nuances that make a difference in competitiveness and give space and room for our teams in Kenya, for our teams in Nigeria or Eswatini or Namibia to adapt and in some cases create locally things that are more relevant for the local market. So it's a combination of setting standards, putting together strategies, and yet at the same time recognizing that we have teams, agency partners in different countries that make us more competitive at a local level.
Sure, that's a big job, because I can only imagine the dynamics that come with different languages, like different behaviors, etc. Like generally, it's not a small feat.
It's an exciting feat, and it's one that works very well if one is respectful of the differences that you're talking about.
Sure.
The worst mistake marketers do, and this I used to see in my earlier career when I worked for multinationals. You have somebody sitting in Boston and, opining very strongly about what will work in India when they've never been to India. So the biggest difference and what really makes things work in an amazing way, if you have a very good sense of when do you lead and when you are comfortable to be a contributor and allow the local market to lead in formulating strategies that will make us win in that respective market.
Got you. So that was a great point, right? About understanding the dynamics of each country. I now want to go into some of the campaigns that you guys have led as the bank. And the first one is It Can Be Repositioning. Kudos for that. Let me start there, maybe, by just saying job well done. Because when I saw it, if I'm not mistaken, it was close to 10 years maybe. I hadn't seen anything from Standard Bank. So that repositioning kind of spoke to me. And I think it spoke to a lot of people because it spoke about it can be. Can you tell me maybe how that came about and how you rolled it out in the different markets as well?
Thank you so much for the acknowledgement. It's one that we're most excited about. In around 2018, thereabouts, we asked ourselves a simple question. Do we have a trusted brand? And the answer was unequivocal, yes. And then we asked ourselves, do we have a brand that will make us win? The answer was a bit shaky. Then we knew that it's time to revamp the brand. The anchor that we had was our group purpose. Africa is our home, we drive her growth. So as we looked for territories for repositioning, we were very clear that they have to support our group purpose of building Africa's growth. Conducted research in 4 countries, including South Africa, Kenya, Mozambique, and Nigeria, talking to different client segments, talking to our people, until we landed in a space that allowed us to be a financial services that sounds human. Even the very slogan, it can be, it's not a typical banking voice, and it, at its essence, it captures our promise of finding new ways to make dreams possible. In our research across the 4 countries, a common theme that was evident is that Africa is a continent of dreamers, hustlers, who just have these huge dreams and they are looking for partners who can enable the achievement of their dreams. So it's about hope and, realizing those dreams. And with Standard Bank as a partner, as an enabler, we could do that. Then COVID came. COVID forced us to launch and reposition in circumstances that we never expected. But what was powerful is that we decided to proceed with the launch because at a time when people were anxious, worried, and almost in despair because of COVID, the It Can Be messages were uplifting, positive, and fitting for the COVID environment and beyond COVID. And so far, the sentiment has been favorable. We have reason to believe that it was the right step, and we still continue to build on It Can Be.
Wow. And I'm assuming then the How About Now initiative, I think you launched that at the back end of last year. It's kind of tied into It Can Be.
Indeed. The consumer and high net worth team did an awesome job. Borrowing from culture, knowing that a lot of people want to do things, but they always think that tomorrow or the next day, and the urgency of how about doing now, it's what we were driving, but still in that notion of chasing your dreams. Together with us, we can enable you to find ways to achieve those dreams. How about now?
Yeah, I've got a Drake song that's like, How About Now, that's ringing in my head. I'm sure your sons will know it, trust me. But that's great.
Yes.
That's great. Like, how about now? And it's about starting now. Like, I can relate. It's not about waiting. It's like because you never know what might happen, right? So do what you want to do and do it now.
Indeed.
Love it. So as we wind down in our conversation, I wish I could keep you here forever, but I know you're a busy man. I want to touch on probably how you've navigated some challenges in the boardroom, in your current role, if there are any, and probably some words of wisdom as a leader to say anyone who's coming up, whether it be junior, mid-level, but if you want to occupy a seat in a big company like this and the big title that you have, what are some of the things that they should look out for?
Wow, that's a simple question to understand, but very difficult. So it's a combination of things in no priority order. I think one of the key things to embrace is that results matter. Sometimes marketing is disrespected because of marketers that act as if we just produce things and their impact is irrelevant. If in the business they can see that you are results oriented and the kind of results you pursue are in line with the business objectives, the commercial objectives, that's a huge tick. Secondly, we are trusted based on different sources. What I've found, one of the biggest source of trust and confidence in the boardroom is competence. If you are a leader of marketing or communication, in that boardroom, no one should know more about marketing more than yourself.
100%.
But your knowledge should not be self-serving. They should see how your knowledge translates into achieving business objectives. The third thing is relationships and collaboration. It amazes me how people underestimate the power of relationships and collaboration. If you respect everyone, that's a good start.
That's true.
If you realize that you can do more through others and with others, it's a huge difference. And then I would say also, just remaining curious is so vital. Customer expectations change. Opportunities don't come as obvious as the sunrise. Some of the opportunities require you to think differently, connect dots that are not obvious. Some of the opportunities come from learning from unrelated categories. So when you are curious and you understand and seek to know about things beyond your category, beyond just marketing, you have a far better chance. And I would say excellence, going back to the notion of results, whatever we do, if we do it to the highest standards, it makes a huge difference and it increases our chances of success. Those are the ones I can think about. The list is probably longer, but I've found that a combination of these is what makes marketing be respected. It's what makes marketing to be recognized for the value it brings, which is real value, not just pictures and images.
I love that. And how do you then remain or stay young in terms of your knowledge? Because you've been in the game for a while. I don't want to call you an old citizen or a senior citizen, but I think you have to rely on certain things as well to continuously keep you in the know-how.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I just recognize that things are changing at a fast pace. So as a result, one has to just keep learning, relearning, and in some cases unlearning. There are things that when I graduated in 1992 made absolute sense and were the best things, and they've since been challenged.
Yes.
So that has been a plus. With online access, one almost has no limit. So I use Get Abstract to read book summaries, and I also use Blinkist to listen for audio of books. With those summaries, I then channel my energies and choose the books that I want to read. I'm a very slow reader, so I have to be...
I can relate.
I have to be very choiceful in the books I buy and the books I eventually read. And I also spend a lot of time with young people. Even in the organization, I occasionally have breakfast with millennials. No agenda. I talk about what they want to talk about. So for me, it's reverse mentoring, just to understand their world, not to see the world through my exco only.
Yeah, that's true. So what are you currently reading? What would you recommend, actually?
Currently, I have Give and Take, relatively old book, I think 2013 or so. And I'm enjoying that. I've just been given a gift about the Amazon journey, and that I'm enjoying because the platform world, it's something that we are all getting into. Yes. So understanding that space. So those are the two books that I'm currently reading. And when I say currently, the current may be several months. Yes. Because I put it down, forget about it, and go back to it. Yes.
You read like me, hey? Okay, as we close off, the last question. What is Thulani Sibeko's purpose statement?
Incidentally, I do have a purpose statement. It only happened in the last, definitely less than 10 years.
Okay.
And it will be no surprise. Let me read it for you.
Okay.
My purpose is to explore possibilities, show up and excel to realize growth and success for myself and others. This came out of deep reflection in a structured way, looking at my journey, where I have been, where my energy and passion is, and it gravitated to these possibilities, growth, excellence, myself and others.
Love it. My good sir, thank you.
Thank you so much. I've thoroughly enjoyed this. I was very nervous, but looking forward to it, and I'm glad it came, and I thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Bongemin.
And that's it, guys. It's a wrap. Cheers until the next guest that wants to sit on the hot seat or in the corner. See you then. Cheers.